I just started doing my takedown, so I thought I'd do a quick behind the scenes. All right, so quick walk around my display. I've just taken down 3 arches, but I have 7 arches with 7 snowflakes under each one. All the arches are made out of PEX with CPVC base. I have strip in all the arches, and they work just fine. I had one failure this year. At the last one, and a connector came off. I'll have to resolder a piece on it. I have a donation pole I built, which has got a Home Depot, just a plastic globe on the top, 4-inch PVC pipe, and I custom made a piece of wood so the donation box would stay in place on it. And there's 18 pixels inside the globe. I have a yard outline with C9 pixels. The mega tree, that's 18 strings, 1-inch spacing, so that's 200 pixels per string. I run them data in the first one, run to the top, break the power on the top, and come down, and I power inject in the bottom of the second string. So every other one, there's 9 ports running 18 strings, and there's a 200 pixel star that I welded together myself. So there's that. I have 4 Matos spiral trees. Those were great. They were did a really nice job. I bought a piece of 3/4 inch EMT, painted it green. There's a bolt on top, and if you can see here, to stabilize it, because I get a lot of wind, is I took some 50-pound test line, fishing line, and went and drove a stake into the ground and held that in place. And I did get some good winds this year, and it held in place. I have a Boscoyo hat that's running off of one output off of my Falcon. Boscoyo singing stocking, and just a regular stocking. There's the other 2 Matos trees, spiral trees. And I have here my custom-made train with my P5 panel in it. P5s, all of them now. That's 4 panels in that particular one. And so there's the engine, the middle car, again with 4 panels, but just in a straight orientation versus 2x2. And my caboose, which each window has another P5 panel in it. I have my standard, decorations here with a snowman, a bear, and then I'll remind my donation poles, since our charity is animal shelter. I have a cat and a dog that sit down there. They just stay out all the time. Have 6 Boscoyo candy canes, the shorter ones. I think it's 49 pixels each. And right up here by the door, these are some old props that I got from Home Depot years ago. They had LEDs in them, and they had a little controller that just randomly changed the color. Well, I ripped out all those lights and put in just a single C9 pixel in each one of them, and took off the diffuser on it. Now let me show you my mega tree, my control center here underneath it. I use the ASAP pole and the portable hole. The securement of that, I have 4 guy wires middle of the tree, and then 4 on the top. I use Randy Bond's topper with the slots, with the special keyed connectors, and all of those are connected with rivets. I got a metal piece on the bottom, and then there's the T connector piece on the top. Now the 4 guy wires, I think, really make my tree very stable, because at the joint of the ASAP pole in the middle, I would get, with the wind, with all the pixels pulling it, the wind pushing against it, because the wind comes straight onto my mega tree. It would actually cause the pole at the joint to tilt forward a little bit. So it's securing at the center and at the top, and the top actually prevents it. The back ones are actually doing a lot of the support, preventing that bending moment on it. So it's been really good, really stable. Do get concerned a little bit about this on the winch strap. I may need to replace that next year, because there is a lot of tension in that strap. Here is my Falcon F16 with a single differential receiver board on it. So this Falcon F16 runs my entire yard. the trains, everything that I walk through here in the yard. And so it's currently, I've turned it off, don't need it anymore for the season. I've got 4 power supplies in here, all Meanwells, and I have basically all of the power injection and 16 power injection and 16 outputs off the F16. And then on the side here, you will see the outputs off of the F16 with the Ethernet, the DMX one. And then over on the other side, I have all my expansions for my receiver. Now for this box here, I have in here my network switch. I have my Raspberry Pi 3, which runs my controller, runs my show. I use the Falcon Pi player. And then I have my FM transmitter, all in this box. And there is it's actually a router. It's my show router for my show network. All right. So next I will go around the house, the yard, okay. Up in the house I have a Gilbert Engineering baby of all Reese. I couldn't get the mother of all Reese. It was too big for right there under my master window. You see the Vascoyo spinner and 2 Gilbert Engineering snowflakes. I think those are the J flakes. On the top of the roof, you'll see my brand new Santa and reindeer. The way I mounted that on the roof is that I built a metal frame at an angle. It's the right angle, so they tilt backward just a little bit. I zip tied them to those metal frames, and then I put sandbags in the back of it. I also ran some black cord up to the peak of my roof and put sandbags that went over the back of the roof. That way it prevented them from sliding off, and the sandbags right there next to it kept it in place. So it worked really well. Nothing went anywhere. It was nice and solid. You'll see my addition this year, and I really liked the Gilbert Engineering's icicles. They were perfect. Once I figured out how to mount them, had a little bit of disaster just prior to Christmas in November when I was doing all my setup on that. So yeah, those worked out really well. And then I have Gilbert Engineering, that's a 32-inch flake. And then over here again from Gilbert, here's the mother of all Reese, and a couple of their 32-inch snowflakes. I believe that's the size. For the control for the whole roof, that's the whole house is running off of my Culp 40B. It's the differential receiver controller that's in that 1500 box right there. And I've created a bunch of receiver boxes using the Harbor Freight animal box right here, and run the cable from the Culp to the box there, and then it's connected into all the parts, all the props that I have on the house. And let's see, other things that would be interesting for everybody. Let's see, but that's pretty much it. I mean, here's another one of my Harbor Freight differential receiver boxes. And the way I do those differential receivers is I put the Meanwell power supply on its side. I have a differential receiver with 4 outputs, and then I have a fuse board, and I have 4 outputs for power injection coming off of it. Okay, here are my Gilbert icicles in my mounting system. Made it very strong. You will see here a piece of 1 1/4 by 2 1/2 angle, which I cut. I drilled 2 holes through it. One is a lag bolt that goes into the soffit. The other is just a regular bolt with a lock nut on it, which I bolted through PVC pipe. And then I attached the icicles along the PVC pipe, drilled holes through the pipe, and run wire ties on it to hold it in position. Some wrapped around the pipe, some straight through it, so that prevented it from being moved in any direction. We survived 40-mile, 50-mile-an-hour winds this winter with this system, and everything stayed perfectly in position. Rock solid. I plan on next year to take that lag bolt and use a regular bolt and go all the way through. I'll drill a hole through, and I'll put a T-nut on the back side of it, and then I'll put the nut in place when I'm not using it during the year, so you won't see the hole. It'll be protected. I'll get it all painted up so it'll look good. So these, I did it on all my icicles with this Gilbert, same approach. The one on the edge of the roof, I actually used a metal EMT pipe instead. And the reason is because I didn't want to get all the way to the edge of the roof when I was up there and have a chance of falling off. So I came up like 2.5 feet for the bracket where I bolted that to the soffit. And that way I didn't get to the edge, wasn't an issue. The roof isn't that steep, so I could just sit down up there and put the bolt, the leg nut in place, lag bolt in place. So that worked out really well. Here's a close-up of my Colt controller and a different receiver using a Harbor Freight. That's the K40 and Harbor Freight differential receiver in there, using all smart receivers from from the Falcon group. All right, so there you go. There's a closer look at my Santan rain gear. For my Bascoyo candy canes, what I've done, these are the small ones, they're like 49, 48 pixels each, is what I've done is I've taken a concrete stake and what you use for putting forms up when you pour concrete, and there's holes in them. What I've done is I stuck those into the ground, and then I ran the zip ties through the holes, around through the front to the holes that were built into it, and that seems to keep them pretty well locked in place, especially when I push them down in the grass, and it keeps them right in place. No issues with the wind. Every once in a while I have to twist one back, but it's not bad at all. All right. Oh, so here is my Bascoyo hat, Santa hat. It's a nice prop. The way it was mounted, I built a PVC frame, zip tied it to it. I had to drill some holes for that. And then I have these plastic tripod that comes back, and I stake that into the ground. And on the center part here, I have a couple pieces of PVC pipe, and I drive rebar on the ground and I slide it over the top of that, which keeps the front secured. The back keeps it from falling back from the wind. Flakes are mounted in the ground. I've built a PVC frame in the back of each one of these. Drilled some hole and put some wire ties. Just got 4 connection points on the snowflake. And then what I did is just a pipe. I have rebar. They're about 2 feet long. Drive it in the ground. Put the PVC pipe over it and set it right there in place. They stay there, no problems. Maybe it's a bit overkill, but then again, it keeps the orientation right and the wind doesn't impact it. As part of my setup, when I need to do power injection with a different power supply, I built a bunch of pigtail that just has the data and the ground running through it. As you see, I set up between these 2 arches, and downstream is where I do my power injection from a separate power supply. So I just have those around, so every year when I need to do power injection, I can just adjust it on the fly. Here's the top of my mega tree. I have Randy Bond from Overkill Metal Products tree topper. You see those metal pieces with the T's on them. I have the riveted type. They work really well. So I have a lot of wind. I like the system with the slots integrated in there, really easy every year. At the top I have every other string of pixels tied into each other, pre-set up where I broke the power, so I inject in the bottom and data on the other side. So it works out really well. This is an 18-strand megatree. Here's my star, 200 pixels. Welded that one myself, and an ASAP pole. You'll see I got a bunch of eye bolts on top, which actually I put 4 guy wires on the very top once I get it all the way up and position at the right height. And then here midway I have some muffler clamps. I forget who gave me the idea to use these. Clamp those on and put some eye bolts in them. And I have 4 guy wires coming off midway up the tree as well. That keeps everything nice and solid. Doesn't go anywhere. So I thought I'd give you a closer look at the Harbor Freight differential receiver boxes that I have. So here's a Harbor Freight ammo box. I have 8 cables coming off the bottom of it. 4 of them are from a differential receiver and 4 of them are for power injection. And the 2 connectors there are for the in and the out of the smart receivers. So we can run from the controller and then on to the next one. You see I have an A on that, so this one is internally set for the A position of the receivers. All right, so here's the same construction, but just the inside view. As you see, I have a fuse board there. That was one's from J boards. I'm only using 4 of them, the outputs versus 8. And there is a differential receiver. The plastic you see there is screwed to the side of the mean wall power supply, which is sitting on its side. And all the plastic is Walmart 88-cent cutting boards. I just bought a bunch of those, and I cut them up, and I mounted the receiver and the board to it. And now here I pulled the power supply out of one of the boxes. So you can see how I got that connected. You can see that I have wired from the output from the power and also the 120 coming in. And on the bottom, I put some plastic pieces, so with some bolts on it, I guess screws with nuts on the back side, just to keep it level and flat, so it doesn't want to rock around when I'm moving it, so it gets it really secured quite well. And then for my last receiver box that I have, here are the ammo box MM30s. These actually work out really nice. There's plenty of room. Again, I'm using Walmart 88-cent cutting boards. You will see the receiver here, fuse board there, again from J boards on this one, and Mr. David Pitts's smart receiver. This side is the power injection. Actually, I'm sorry, this side is the receiver outputs, and this side is for power injection. And what I do actually with my cables, this is the output for pixel output, and then I just flip the cables around the exact opposite. So I put the male end for power injection. So I can't mess it up really when I'm doing power injection. I just flip the cable backwards, and I can use any cable I want, any extension cable I've made for power injection. And as you can see here on the wires there, I've cut the data lines and just running the positive and the negative from the power supply. So here's my control box for my Colt K40. I have that in the CG 1500. Open up the box here for you. And so there's the Colt. And I have one differential receiver. The Meanwell power supply. I run all 12 volts. I have a little buck converter to go from 12 volts to 5, as this particular Colt controller only runs out 5 volts. So there's no jumpers or anything to get it to 12. There I have a little USB dongle that is for Ethernet and for wireless. So I do run an Ethernet cable in there on my shelf for a hard wire to connect everything up. And then here I got a fuse board where I run for power injection. So while I'm in my shop, I thought I'd show you a little bit of how I have things stored away. I have all of my icicles hanging from the roof. I put in some little hooks up there, and I put some 1/4-inch rod, which I was using for welding my wireframe together, and hung each one off. You can see a little closer view there. And here's some more of them as well. That's for the whole house. And I have my outlines for my windows and doors, all mounted PVC pipe hanging just off a thick beam with a couple hooks I just got off of Home Depot. Then I have boxes there for the various pieces. There's my control boards, my P5 Tune 2 signs, and this particular box ends up going up on the shelves that I built. And I don't have them up right now, but I put my snowflakes and other props go there, and up in the attic where I have my arches. So that does it for this year's behind the scenes. I hope it helps some of you guys out and gives you some ideas on how to set up your shows. Happy preparing for Christmas next year. Have a good one. Bye.